All right, let's dive into the surprising science of flavor. But we're not talking about your dinner tonight. We're talking about a cow's. It turns out what a cow wants to eat is actually a multi-million dollar question right at the heart of modern agriculture. So, close your eyes and picture a cow. What's it eating? Grass, right? Probably grass. But on a modern farm, well, the real answer is a whole lot more complex and surprisingly scientific. And this is where things get really interesting. It all comes down to something called palatability. See, we think of farm animals as these simple eaters, but the truth is they can be incredibly picky. And that pickiness, it creates a huge challenge for farmers. As farming has evolved from wide open pastures to these super efficient controlled systems, the animal's diet has totally changed too. The food is scientifically perfect, packed with nutrition, but what happens if the animal just doesn't feel like eating it? That's where the real puzzle starts. I found this technical bulletin that just nails the problem. It says that ruminants, so we're talking cattle, sheep, goats, are super sensitive to how their food tastes and smells. And this isn't just them being fussy, it's a critical factor that can literally make or break a farm's success. Okay, so if taste is the problem, it's got to be the solution too, right? And that's led to a whole field of science dedicated to engineering the perfect flavors for animal feed. The technical term for this stuff is palatant additives. It sounds a little fancy, I know, but the idea is actually super simple. These are just specially designed flavors that you add to feed to trigger a response that makes the animal want to eat. It's all about stimulating their appetite. But it is way more strategic than just making the food taste yummy. Of course, flavors get them to eat more, but they also do clever things like mask the bitter taste of essential vitamins and minerals. They help cover up any flavor changes when the raw ingredients vary, and they even let farmers use really nutritious but maybe not so tasty agricultural byproducts. And get this, some feed companies even use a signature aroma as a form of branding. How wild is that? So the big question is, does all this science actually work in the real world? Well, let's zoom in on one of the most important moments in a cow's life, its first few meals. You have to understand, getting a calf to start eating solid food and fast is absolutely crucial. It's how their whole digestive system develops and transitions them from just drinking milk to becoming a fully functioning ruminant. If they get off to a slow start, it can cause problems for the rest of their lives. So, a fascinating study looked at this exact problem. They asked a really simple question. What happens if we just add a little vanilla flavor to a calf's first solid food? The results were, honestly, they were incredible. Okay, get this. The calves who got the starter feed with vanilla flavor, they gained weight 21% faster than the other group. 21%. That is a massive difference in growth, and it all came from just a tiny bit of flavor. And why did they grow so much faster? Well, it's simple. They ate more. That flavor diet led to a 19% jump in how much food they consumed. The flavor literally made them hungrier, just like the science said it would. And here's what that actually means for the farmer. Those calves on the flavor diet could be weaned about 3 days earlier. Now, that may not sound like a lot, but for a farm, that's real money saved. It means lower costs and a healthier animal moving on to the next stage of its life that much faster. And this science isn't just for baby calves. No way. It plays a huge role in what is probably the most high-tech part of farming today, modern dairy production. Think of dairy cows as elite athletes. Their diets are precision-tuned down to the last gram, so they're incredibly sensitive to any weird smells or bitter tastes. And if they go off their feed, even for a little bit, milk production can plummet, and that hits the farm's bottom line hard. And this is where it gets really cool. Think about robotic milking systems. A cow has to choose to walk into that machine. So how do you convince her? You use a super tasty feed. It's the bait that attracts her, and it's the reward she gets while she's being milked. Flavor is what creates this positive feedback loop that makes the entire automated system work. It's literally the key. And you see the same idea pretty much everywhere. For cattle that have just arrived at a feedlot, they're super stressed out. A really palatable feed helps calm them down and gets them eating and staying healthy. Same thing with goats and sheep. They're known for being picky eaters. So flavors help mask really nutritious stuff that, well, it might not taste that great, like rapeseed meal or even urea. So after all this, I bet you're wondering, what are we actually talking about here? What in the world is on this highly specialized flavor menu for cows and sheep? All right, so what's on the menu? Well, it kind of starts where you'd probably expect, with some flavors that are familiar and comforting, especially for the young ones. But then it takes a really interesting turn into stuff that you would probably be more likely to find in your own kitchen cabinet. Just take a look at this. For the really young animals, it's all about those comforting flavors, right? Milky, vanilla, butter. That makes sense. But check this out. As they get older, the palate gets way more sophisticated. We're talking orange, citrus, anise, even fenugreek and maple. This is not just random stuff thrown in a bucket. This is a super carefully curated menu designed for different animals at very specific stages of their life. So at the end of the day, what's the big takeaway here? It's this. In modern animal nutrition, flavor is not a little treat. It is a powerful, strategic tool. I mean, think about it. It improves animal welfare by helping stressed animals get the nutrition they need. It directly boosts feed intake, which means better growth and more milk. That, of course, makes the farm more efficient and more profitable. And, as we saw with the robots, it's actually the secret ingredient that makes some of these incredible modern farming systems even possible. So the next time you think about a farm, remember there's this hidden science at play, right down to the taste of vanilla. And it kind of makes you wonder, right? If we're fine-tuning an animal's diet with this much detail, what other invisible sciences are shaping the food that ends up on our own tables?